And Walter, we're at a key spot here where folks who say, if you're going to say these days are not 24 hours, that they are periods of time that could be lengthy, we got a problem with Exodus chapter 20, verse 9. And they're willing to bet the whole thing on this one. And it says, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. People say it does not suggest that those days are anything other than 24-hour days. And in fact, in your debate with Duncan and Hall on the Genesis debate that you wrote about, they said the commandment, one of the 10 commandments, certainly does not require labor for 6,000 years or 6 million years prior to Sabbath observance. So they're saying if you admit that in Exodus chapter 20, verse 9, the creation days that it's referring back to have got to be literal 24-hour days. Now, Walter, what do you say?
Well, John, first of all, it's a good argument. Let's take our hats off. And then secondly, we argue, but wait a minute. One is talking about the days of creation. The second one is talking about the days of a celebration. Now Moses in 1400 BC, everybody thinks we've left a few thousand years at a minimum from when we were talking about the creation of the universe up to this particular point. So I think he's taken the rhythm that is in the created order and put that right over top of life and has said that I really want a time of work that's separated from a time of rest, just like God's time of work was separated from the time of rest. And he uses the analogy of creation. It is analogical. He introduces it with a causal phrase, for or because, and therefore his main point is the command. The command about the 6 days is prior, then the causal reason follows. Do we have this other places by God used in Scripture with other authors? Sure. In Daniel, we have 70 weeks of 7 days for 490 days, which become 490 years. The pattern is seen at a number of places, and Hugh, I think you have done some things there too. The argument of the Sabbath, we've said in Hebrews, is still lasting, but there was a requirement of Israel on the same creative thing to take a 7th year off, right. And then the 49th and 50th year was the Jubilee. How does that work?
Yeah, it's Leviticus 25, 3 and 4 makes the point that with the agricultural land, as opposed to human beings, it is to be worked for 6 years and given a Sabbath rest, and that Sabbath rest was defined as a year. Scientifically, we know why. That's to starve the nematodes so that you keep the land productive. But God was telling them that instruction. And when you look at the 4th commandment, the commandment about the Sabbath that we humans are to obey, it's repeated 5 times in the 5 books of Moses. In only 2 of those passages do you see that causal phrase, for, in 6 days God worked and he rested on the 7th. The other 3, that causal phrase is missing. And therefore, I think you get a powerful point. This must be an analogy. It can't be an exact equation. And the fact that the agricultural land has a whole year of Sabbath rest establishes, again, this is an analogy and not an equation.